I'm going to
They're not
call the
living in the
meeting
area?
to order.
Where do they kind of end up going?
Once again, thanks so
needs.
much for everybody being here. We have such good turnout for these meetings. It's wonderful. And actually, I want to start with introductions because we have a new gentleman joining us. Hi, Paul. Glad you could make it, and thank you for joining us. We usually spend some time just introducing ourselves, so if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go down the line and you can meet the rest of us.
Sure. My name is Paul Henkel. I am the head of communications out in Horace. Excited to be here today to represent the city. A lot going on in Horace, and so things and commissions and programs like this are going to be essential to our future growth. So we're excited, and thanks for having us here.
Well, welcome again.
And Karen Engler at large, and I work at NDSU.
Anna Johnson at large, and I work with CAP LP Head Start in Moorhead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Heather Niesemeyer, and I'm here representing the city of Moorhead. I'm one of their Moorhead City Council members.
I'm Joan Copperwood. I'm retired from Concordia. I'm at large also, and I'm retired after teaching English for 31 years at Concordia.
Arlette Preston, I'm here as a member of the Fargo City Commission, but I also have a nursing background, so this topic is very apropos for me.
Hi, I'm Dave Steichen. I represent the city of Dilworth on the Dilworth City Council. I work for the post office in Fargo.
I'm Paul Crab. We do it? No. I'm Paul Krabnoff, Clay County Commissioner.
Jim Capitan, Cass County Commission.
And the advisory steering committee, I should say. You want to introduce yourself, Michelle?
Good morning. Michelle Draxton. I'm a registered dietitian at FargoCast Public Health and the current co-chair of the steering committee.
Good morning, Janice Tweet, Ending Hunger 2.0 Director with the Great Plains Food Bank.
Hello, I'm Noelle Harden with University of Minnesota Extension based in Moorhead.
Good morning. I'm Rory Beal. I'm the Health Promotion Director for Clay County Public Health.
Good morning, Eric Haig. I am the Program Coordinator for the Refugee Agriculture Program at Global Refuge, which was formerly called Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service.
Good morning, I'm Erica Frank. I'm the Planning Technician at Clay County Planning and Zoning.
Hi, I'm Rita Usatis with NDSU Extension in Cass County.
And I'm Adam Altenberg with the Fargo-Moorhead Metropolitan Council of Governments.
All right, well, thank you. So the agenda is in front of you, and unless there's a change to it, a motion to approve would be good.
So moved.
Second.
Joan Copperwood.
Oops, sorry. Second, Niesemeyer.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the minutes from January 10th are in our packet as well. A motion to approve those unless there are changes.
Joan
I would
Copperwood.
move.
So moved. Whoops, sorry.
Yeah, second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, I am so sorry. Somebody is online. I apologize.
Hi, Jeff York, at large member. I work for the Alpha Company.
Thank you. Anyone else? Out of sight, out of mind. I apologize. All right. So the mission, we talked about just reacquainting ourselves with the mission of this group with every meeting, and it is actually highlighted in our agenda. So if there's any questions or comments, that would be fine. Otherwise, we will take it for just reading and move on. All right. So Cass Clay Food Partners Resource Review. Janice, I think you were going to lead us in that, and there is an attachment of one of the resources that you're going to cover. Maybe let's step back, especially for the new member. Can you just describe what this is?
Yes.
Overall?
Yes. Thank you for that invitation. So we're going to be going over our hunger and food insecurity community snapshot. So some of the resources that the Food Partners has put together over the last few years include blueprints, which are look at different policy areas, reviewing what exactly a policy might look like, what the information background is about that issue, what some policies have looked like in similar types of communities. And what we also have put together, a smaller kind of brief or snapshot more so, are just looking at some different areas of the local food system. So in this one in particular, looking at what hunger and food insecurity looks like and what some of the community responses are to that. But if there are questions about that, happy to answer more about blueprints, and those resources are all available on our website.
And how many are there? There's quite a few.
Yes, there are 20-ish. Does anybody? Yeah. 18 or so, 18 to 20 between the blueprints and snapshots. Yes. All right, so with the hunger and food insecurity snapshot, it was first done in 2018, so we went through and just provided some updates to it. So you do have an updated version within your document. I'm just going to walk through what the snapshot includes. So really what it's going through is just as an introduction, really giving that foundation setting to what food insecurity is, what hunger looks like, and what some of that neighbor experience is looking like for our neighbors accessing food insecure or food secure programming, and then some of the different initiatives that we have across Cass and Clay County, and we'll get a little bit more into all of those. So when we talk about food insecurity is really about the lack of somebody's ability to access appropriate and adequate foods for them to be able to live a healthy, active lifestyle. And so that's about getting the right foods for nutrition, the right foods that you want in your diet as well, that are culturally appropriate to yourself. So the food insecurity rates that are listed there, we turn to Feeding America for their Map the Meal Gap analysis. That analysis is only uses data that is 2 years old. And at this point, we're still looking at the 2021 data because their newest version of that is coming out within the next couple weeks. So with our food insecurity rates, we always give them a little bit of grace, just knowing that it isn't necessarily looking at the community now, it's looking at older information. So I always caution that when we look at our food insecurity rates, that we might have a little different occurrence of what's happening right now. But you can see Cass County, 4.7 food insecurity rate, Clay County a little higher, 7.4. Again, this is 2021 information, so definitely still very impacted by COVID. And once those updated numbers for 2022 are released, be happy to share those and get us a little closer to what our current picture might look like. So outside of food insecurity, or kind of another step towards food insecurity, is really looking at hunger. So if we think about somebody who's hungry, it might be that they just can't put food on their table tonight. Maybe they recently lost a job, so they wouldn't technically be food insecure because it isn't a consistent problem, but they are accessing and in need of food assistance, so they're accessing a food pantry, a meal site. And so to layer that approach in, we look at the Great Plains Food Bank study that they do every 4 years called Hunger on the Plains. So the last iteration of that came out in 2023. And within that study, we, as a food banker, we go to neighbors across our service area of North Dakota and Clay County, Minnesota, and do a survey with neighbors to learn more about what life looks like for them at this point in time. And so for the 2023 iteration, we did 518 surveys. The survey itself was about 70-ish questions long, depending on how you answered. If you said no, you might not have gotten asked another question about that specific programming. So roughly 70 questions, really just looking at who's in your household, what's your income level, how often are you accessing food services, what types of food services, SNAP, meal sites, food pantries, and what are your barriers to accessing food. So a pretty comprehensive look at what a neighbor might be experiencing at that point in time. Within that survey, 100 of the surveys were conducted here in Cass and Clay County, which got us a really nice representative sample to be able to pull out information to specifically to Cass and Clay counties. And I have shared a little about this over time since this last study came out. So happy to share more information too about the study, but just pulled out a couple of the more key pieces that we found this year within people who are accessing the charitable feeding network here in Cass and Clay. We found that 43% were children within those households, 11% are seniors, which for our purposes under USDA, we qualify as somebody who is 60 or older. We also have a fairly large section that focuses on chronic health conditions, because we know that that can really, that intersection of hunger and health is so key. And if somebody is experiencing a chronic health condition and also can't afford to put food on their table, that health condition is going to be exacerbated. And so 74% of respondents in our area did say that they, for themselves, have at least one chronic health condition. One thing that came up a lot through the survey too was access to transportation. Just here in Cass and Clay counties, 40% said they don't have access to a vehicle that runs. So we can think of what that means for our neighbors when they're trying to access food. If they're trying to take a bus line, how long is it taking them to get there? How much are they actually able to carry with them too, if they don't have kind of that trunk or backseat space that a car would provide for transporting items? And then there's also a section about more of some of those barriers that people might be facing in terms of where they're making their trade-offs. So a lot of people are making choices between paying for food and paying for other bills. The highest one noticed was the utility bill, where 42% have had to make a choice between paying for food and their utility bill. 38% are making choices between food and transportation costs, and 19% are making choices between food and healthcare costs. So that's just kind of the landscape of kind of where food insecurity and hunger experiences are within our system right now. So the rest of the blueprint just gives snapshot, really just gives a small shot of what some of the programming that's available to our community members here is. And so first goes into federal programming. Our next presentation will be from North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, who administers much of the USDA programming within North Dakota. So I won't spend too much time on this because they can do a much better job of sharing that information. But the ones that are highlighted are SNAP, that is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as food stamps, where people apply a very hefty application. They apply for that. They're allotted a certain amount that they can get monthly based on their income. And then they get an EBT card, works as a debit card, where they can go to a grocery store and use that card as they would any other funding and purchase the foods that they need for their family. WIC supports food nutrition education, as well as food assistance vouchers to pregnant and nursing women with children 5 and under. We also have our school lunch programs, of course, our federal programming changes within both Minnesota and North Dakota over the past year. In Minnesota, they now provide all meals to students at no cost, regardless of what that family's income is. In North Dakota right now, for the next biennium, they did increase the amount or increase the poverty rate. So all families up to 200% of poverty do receive meals at no cost. And that essentially wipes out those reduced cost meals. So the example of that is a family of 4 who is making $60,000 a year would qualify for free meals in this. That's what that, how expanded that 200% allowed for that program. And then senior commodities, that wasn't covered in the last iteration of the snapshot, but is in there now, where there is a USDA program where seniors can receive food boxes every other month of shelf-stable items administered locally on the North Dakota side through SENCA and on the Minnesota side through CAP-LP. Also, the snapshot also goes into our food assistance programs. Of course, the Great Plains Food Bank is the food bank that oversees the meal sites, food pantries, and all of our partners across both of the counties here. Not every food pantry or meal site in the area may be a partner of ours, so there is some more other resources too to look for of where people can connect with food pantries in their communities. Another program is Glean ND that was actually came to fruition because of the food partners here. So that was an example where a blueprint was put together of what a gleaning network might look like. And then the commission was able to go moved forward with that project, hired a gleaning coordinator, had a gleaning network set up, and that gleaning network does still exist. It's still been a fairly small scale, but essentially what that group does, and we've talked about it a little bit before in this group as well, but that group can go out, help pick any excess produce that might be in a backyard garden or that a farmer might have, and then be able to pick and transport that produce to a food pantry or a meal site so that that can go right to neighbors and get them that produce, that fresh food. Master Gardener's Veggie for the Pantry program is also pretty popular, where they are able to collect some of that excess produce too, usually have at least one, if not multiple distribution sites where people can bring their excess food and then they will take it to food pantries as well. Local organizations, of course, the Cass Clay Food Partners, we're all well versed in that, but just the snapshot does comment on the work that we do here, both as the commission, as the Action Network, and as the steering committee. Also noted within that is the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition, and so that is a group of about 40 different organizations here in the Fargo-Moorhead area. We've had presentations from them today, and we'll hear about a program or project of theirs today too, but they're really working together to advance food security and cultivate a thriving community, really focusing on that intersection between hunger and health. And they do meet the first Tuesday of every month. They do take a couple months off in the summer generally, but their meetings start at 8:15 at Fargo Cass Public Health, and all are welcome to attend those meetings as well. A couple other local initiatives just to wrap up here that are mentioned in the snapshots as well. So of course, community gardens are great and well done in our community, growing together, of course, listed here. And then the City of Fargo does put together, Fargo Cass Public Health does put together a list of community gardens annually. So Snapshot does include a link to be able to see what community gardens are coming up. Also, farmers markets, of course, vibrant in our area as well. So a link to those are included within the blue snapshot itself. I'm going to skip down to the Double Up Bucks program because that is something that runs through the farmers markets where they're actually able to stretch the dollars of SNAP recipients by matching those SNAP dollars so that they can get more fresh produce for their money. The amounts has gone up over the year. It was still at $10 per market at the time the snapshot was originally put together. I think last year it was up to $30 that they could get at the Moorhead Farmers Market, which was incredible, kind of a triple bucks. And then I believe Red River Market last year did $15. So not sure where those markets will land this year, but excited to see how much more those programs can expand. Also within that, there are a few urban orchards and forests here in our community. So those listed within the snapshot itself too. MB Johnson Park up in Moorhead, planted a few years ago. Once that does start producing fruit trees, those will be open to the public, similar to Orchard Glen in South Fargo, where there are fruit trees that the public can just go in and pick that fruit when it is ready. And then the City of West Fargo also, if you go to their website, has a list of community orchards where people within West Fargo where people can go and access some of that fresh produce as well. And then the last one noted there is Heart and Soul Community Cafe. So they are a pay what you can model where they will do pop-ups. They have a trailer that they'll go pop up in. They'll pop up in brick and mortar facilities too, where people can come in, and if you aren't able to pay for your meal that day, you're still able to get a well-balanced, fresh, delicious meal. Or if you can pay for that too, it's more of a bringing everyone together and just paying what you are able to. So that was a very quick look at a very brief document, but happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, we'll have some discussion about the federal programming coming, and I would defer to that conversation to be able to better answer any questions you might have about those federal programs.
Questions or comments?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So at Head Start or at Child Cares, we can operate a program called Child and Adult Care Food Program, or ACFP. It operates on the same tiered system as the National School Lunch Program, where we can get reimbursed for the meals, and just wondering if you'd consider adding that to a future version of this document.
Yeah, we can put that into this one too. I can connect with you to make sure it gets added for this update here. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you for your brief overview. It's always very interesting and so comprehensive, and I just really appreciate this. I have just a quick question that maybe you can remind me. You may have addressed this earlier. In the Hunger on the Plains report, you surveyed 518 clients. How were those selected to ensure some cross-section of our community, as well as how are you addressing the various languages in which you are surveying? Thank you.
Yes. I'll answer the second part first because we only did this version in English. So that is something that we went into knowing that we didn't have the capacity to do other languages last time, but we'll look to implement that in our 2026 version so that we are making sure that we're hearing from all neighbors or all eligible neighbors. The way it works is that we really look at our service area overall and just kind of work together, comparing the food insecurity rates for different counties, how many food pantry and meal site partners we have in each county, and knowing that we want to get a minimum of 5 to 6 responses in each county that we're surveying so that we can report back on that county without the potentially having any anonymity lost. So we're really setting out that to set out our targets. So in some spaces, we do kind of combine counties if we want to look at them together based on, for example, in the south central part of the state, lower food insecurity in that area, less food pantry options. So we do kind of combine counties in that case. Or Billings County, there isn't a large population. That is mostly the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. So we look really at combining some counties as we kind of make this overall. And then we set out a pattern from there. So we were at over 60 different sites connecting with neighbors. Once we set out our schedule and knew where we were going to go to make sure we're visiting each county or enough of each county to have data to present back on it, we did do either a random sample depending on how many people were expected to visit the pantry that day. And these were all done in person surveys, handed somebody a piece of paper or a tablet depending on their comfortability. So it's a survey that the neighbor is taking on their own. They are at the food pantry or meal site. So at places where we expected a high number, we did do a random sample so that we would ensure that we were getting, not getting a bias within that. At some of our smaller locations, though, where they may only be seeing 10 neighbors during that day, we did just ask everyone who came in if they were willing to take the survey. It was optional, they didn't need to, and anyone who did complete the survey did receive a $10 cash incentive in appreciation of their time.
Okay, thank you. And I'm happy to hear that you're looking at how to incorporate other languages for the next version. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, Dave.
Yes, Tweed, thanks for your presentation. I'm going to follow the question behind Ms. Copperwood's. On this survey, it's kind of amazing the results that's presented here. Do you have any idea if you could break it down between the core metro counties versus outstate? I imagine there's going to be a little difference, but the numbers are I'm kind of surprised at, it's sad, but I'm surprised at what the numbers show. But do you have any idea if that's trending up or down or kind of always been there?
Yeah, we didn't do an urban versus rural analysis, but when we were structuring where we were going to go, we did look kind of at population center. So a lot of our respondents were visited food pantries right within the Fargo-Moorhead area, but within Cass County did also go out to Castleton to the rural Cass emergency food pantry, and on the Clay County side went to the Barnesville food pantry. So we were making sure that overall was representative of both the urban and rural. I don't have, like I said, we didn't do that specific analysis. Could definitely look more into that, especially if you're interested more in the Clay County side, assuming you are, not saying you are, we could really dig a little bit more into seeing kind of what that did look like from our Moorhead group versus our Barnesville group, if that's helpful.
Well, I was kind of more curious about like the western side of North Dakota, where they probably are in a higher poverty rate and
Yeah.
different issues that we don't really think about as much here.
Yeah, we did, like I said, we have this Cass Clay analysis. We did Burley Morton for the Bismarck Mandan area. We did Ward, Renville, McHenry for that kind of Minot area, and did do Grand Forks. And I would say overall between the different iterations, very similar, where percentages, of course, are different, but we are still seeing people are making tough choices. That utility bills are usually the ones that people aren't paying and they're buying food instead or making that choice between. Transportation was a big barrier across any section that we were looking for, any county. That kept coming up again and again. So it's a lot of similarities, but just some little weighted differences, I would say.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I have actually a question. So the numbers here, the overall number of 4.7 and 7.4 are quite old, but I'm thinking we're seeing stresses on the housing system where affordability has really been impacted since COVID, and we're starting to see an increase in evictions. I'm wondering if there, and maybe I missed it, but is there some way to get a more ongoing current, like overall numbers? Even those that are visiting the food pantries?
Yeah. For food insecurity rates, we at the food bank do rely on Feeding America's numbers, and so use that as our food insecurity metrics. But within what our service numbers are, those are very different and change from year to year. And we do stat updates internally every 6 months. So we do have our Cass and Clay numbers. I don't have them in front of me, so I won't be able to get them off the top of my head. But if I'm remembering correctly, am I remembering correctly? Definitely overall what we are seeing is that visits are going up. I think we're seeing that across the board over the last, but just even between our last 6 months to this month, we're seeing that more and more. And every month since May of 2023, as a food bank, we have distributed at least 1 million pounds of food, which is astonishing to us even of how much food is needing to go out our doors right now.
Yeah. Would it be, it sounds like you're doing this monthly, looking at the numbers month by month. Is it possible just to report that to this group, probably on a monthly basis, or I guess we meet only quarterly? So quarterly basis?
Yeah, just as an ongoing standing.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I think that would be, if nothing else, have it on the agenda, maybe not having to do a presentation necessarily, but
yeah,
feeding that information to us, that would be great.
Yeah.
Heather.
Yeah, I want to sort of piggyback on that. I think that would be really interesting. Because one of our sort of missions, our calls, is to know that our community has access. And I think in Noelle's presentation at our last meeting, she had used the University of Minnesota or Minnesota State, I can't recall the source, and of her research that she had cited, but the results for the state of Minnesota was that visits from one year to the next, and I, again, don't remember the year, but they had doubled. And that was visits, not necessarily just an increase in the people who were visiting, but that visits had doubled. And so I think having that, those statistics just to sort of keep a pulse on our community and see, I don't know how numbers will change quarterly or month to month, but just to sort of keep that in mind, I think you were also mindful, and I appreciate that, of how Glean came out of this group. I really appreciate when it's more than just a meeting, where we can come up with brilliant ideas as a group and share them with our community as solutions, and be mindful that we are solution oriented as a collaborative here. And, I don't know that we will come up with brilliant solutions today or even next time we meet, but I think having that data and being solution oriented and keeping that in the forefront of our minds when we meet would really be helpful.
Great, happy to add that in.
Okay, it looks like we're running over a little bit on this agenda item, so I'll move it on, and thank you, Janice, very much. I'm probably not going to pronounce this last name right, but Linda Schloer, is that how you pronounce it? And Melissa Anderson are here from the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction. Actually, I think they're online. Is that right? Yeah. To talk with us about the USDA Nutrition Assistance Programs. Linda and Melissa, are you? No? Can you check, Adam? Are they online?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. We heard somebody.
Okay, this is Linda. Melissa should be on as well. I'm on the phone rather than the app.
We can barely hear you. Can you speak up?
Turn things up here.
Can you hear any better? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's better, much better.
Okay. I'll make it even better. How was that?
That's good.
Is that better? Okay, super. Yeah, Melissa should be on as well, and she was going to begin the presentation. So I'm just going to check one more time to see if she's on.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, is that you, Melissa? No?
Yeah, that was Melissa.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
We're not hearing you, Melissa.
Is there a bad connection, Melissa?
Well, maybe while Melissa tries to get her connection, I could start, and that way we won't waste time.
That would be good. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so this is Linda Schleyer. That's how it's pronounced. I'm the Director of Child Nutrition and Food Distribution Programs with the Department of Public Instruction. Melissa and I did send a PowerPoint presentation, but since I can't see it, I'm only on the phone, I'll just follow along with my slides. My slides look like the formatting might be off a little bit, so I apologize. I can send corrected ones after this. So launching this year, we have a new USDA Child Nutrition Program. It's called Summer EBT. It is similar to the pandemic EBT program, which started in 2020. And that program was to make sure that children who receive free or reduced price meals at school have access to meals or to food when school is closed due to COVID, or then it was due to the distance learning. We've also had a summer PEBT program, which operated since 2020 for the same purpose. The summer EBT program is a new permanent program through USDA, so it is guaranteed to happen every summer, be available for all students who meet the eligibility criteria. North Dakota is one of about 25 states, right around that 25 number, that have opted in to operate the program this summer. Many states are still deciding whether or not they can do the program and are doing planning this year rather than implementing. The summer EBT program became permanent because of some demonstration projects. And through those demonstration projects, it showed that the program reduced food insecurity in school-age children by 33%. So we know that this program has a big impact. The summer EBT program in North Dakota is going to be implemented by two agencies. North Dakota Department of Health and Human Services is a coordinating agency, so they are the ones that are the main agency that is implementing. This is truly a partnership. North Dakota Department of Public Instruction is the partnering agency. Health and Human Services are responsible for issuing the cards along with the benefits, managing those cards, and providing SNAP information to DPI for the purpose of identifying students that are eligible. DPI is responsible for identifying those students who are eligible, which means that they have to be eligible for free reduced price meals, plus enrolled in a school that is participating with the National School Lunch Program in North Dakota. Between the two of us, it's taken quite a bit of planning, but we are happy to be implementing this program. The benefits for the program is $120 per child for the summer, so it's fixed down to $40 a month. Each eligible student will receive their own summer EBT card loaded with the benefits. The timeline for these cards is the bulk of them will go out May 16th, so that they are in the child's hand by June 1st. And that is because the program requires that the children have access to these benefits the first day of what's called the summer operational period, or the first day of summer. And we have determined that that would be June 1st in North Dakota. Additional cards will be issued throughout the summer because families can also establish their eligibility for summer EBT by completing an application. So if kids didn't receive free reduced price meals at school during school year 23-24, they can apply during the summer. If they show that they are eligible, then we can issue the benefits to them until up to September 1st. So our summer operational period is June 1st through August 31st. Families don't have to apply unless they weren't eligible for free reduced price meals during the school year. So for most eligible students, there won't be an application. There's streamlined eligibility, which means the students are issued a card automatically. The students that would receive these are those that are directly certified through SNAP, TANF, or the Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservations, and that is the USDA Commodity Foods Program, which also makes them eligible for the summer EBT. Students who are homeless, migrant, or foster, because they are automatically eligible for free meals at school, and then all other children that are eligible for free reduced price meals in 23-24 based on the federal income eligibility guidelines. So those additional students that are getting free meals because of the North Dakota allocation that went up to 200% of poverty are not eligible. Children who are not enrolled at a school that participates in the National School Lunch Program but are receiving SNAP benefits will also receive the summer EBT benefits if they fall within the North Dakota compulsory education range, which is from North Dakota Century Code, and that is ages 7 to 16. So those children are usually those that are homeschooled, and we will identify those from SNAP data and issue those cards as well. Like I said, the summer operational period is June 1st through August 31st. This benefit period reflects what would be the basic summer timeline for North Dakota. We do know that some schools are done mid-May, some schools will start mid-August, but we looked at the latest day of school in May and the latest day of starting in the fall when we looked at this operational period. This operational period sets the timeline for benefit issuance. And I kind of explained that earlier. If the students will have that EBT card by June 1st, if their contact information that they've registered with the school is correct. So we do have a way of updating that information or having parents update it, but that's going to be crucial for getting those benefits out in a timely manner. Students who are not receiving free or reduced price meals at school can qualify by completing a simple application, and that application will be provided both online and a paper application. This application, rather than going to the school, where the school would normally determine those eligibility, will come directly to DPI, and we will determine whether or not that those children are eligible. If they're eligible, the benefits will be issued. Some of those applications could be subject to verification for cause. I talked a little bit about the parent guardian contact information. In summer 2020, we issued the pandemic EBT cards to each individual eligible child. And we found at that time that there was a big problem with contact information that schools have received from the families. We issued about 45,000 cards that summer. 7,000 were returned. A big percentage of those never did get reissued or resent out. And so we know that that's going to be a big problem in North Dakota. So we're working on some solutions right now. One of those solutions is a portal that we'll be setting up in which the parents of eligible children will be able to go in, check their contact information, and update it if it needs to be updated. Parents will know if they have an eligible child because we will be sending them an email along with a PIN number that they will be able to use to get into the portal. All of this information is going to go out to the schools, to the families, to however we can get it out as soon as possible. We do have some communication plans with schools and with those families, the eligible families, and we're working with an advertising company to do a public information campaign, which will include some advertisements, online media, and social media. So we're really excited about that. We will be having a summer EBT helpline, which will be active April 1st. And this will include a voicemail box, an email box, and our website. So again, we're trying to provide as many options as possible for families to get the information they are looking for summer EBT, to access those resources, and to contact us if there's any further questions. I think I got through all of my slides, and I'd be happy to pass this on to Melissa now, if she's online.
Are you there, Melissa? Yeah, I don't think so. Any questions of Linda?
No.
Okay, I'll give Melissa one more chance. Is Melissa on the line? I don't think so. Well, we appreciate the information, Linda. Yeah, thank you so much for presenting.
Sure, and my contact information is available to you on that final slide.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, okay, so then we're on to the meal repack program. Zoe Absey and from Great Plains Food Bank, and Amber Lockhart from Northern Cass School District.
Thank you all for having us today. Like Arlette said, I'm Zoe Apsey. I'm the Community Initiatives Manager at Great Plains Food Bank, but I also am on the Meal Repack Committee of the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition.
And I am Amber Lockhart. I'm the Community School Site Coordinator at Northern Cass School, which, if you don't know, is about 25 miles north of here in Hunter, North Dakota. And I'm also part of the Meal Repack Task Force.
Great. Here's just a little agenda. We're going to talk about the purpose and goals of the program, the history, and then the implementation. So why was the Meal Repack project started? As Janice did a great overview, but hunger impacts 1 in 3 children in North Dakota. 34, and I was corrected, but 43% of students or children in people we're serving in Cass and Clay counties are under the age of 18, so children and youth. Area public schools reported that 35 to 40% of enrolled students qualify for free or reduced meals. And like Janice said, households who are receiving assistance are also being impacted by chronic health, lack of affordable housing, transportation, and are living in poverty. So there is a need. The whole goal of Meal Repack is to support students and families who are experiencing food insecurity. It's a really complex problem stemming from not having enough resources to afford nutritious foods, but also not having access to that affordable, healthy food items. So you might live in a town with a grocery store, but if you don't have transportation or a running car, you don't actually have access. If you're a child and you go home and don't have food at home, you don't have access. So Meal Repack is really meeting families where they're going. So if transportation is an issue, if we can get meals to kids when they're at school, because they're already there, they can take them home with them. And that transportation issue is non-existent in that case. So really wraparound services, getting food to where they're at. It was started in 2021, actually through Cass Clay Food Partners First Friday meeting. It came up about food access, and someone just had an idea of, hey, what if we used extra food at the schools to give them back at the schools? And so from that, a coalition of folks, so Moorhead Schools, Fargo Schools, West Fargo, Cass, and Clay County Public Health, along with Power Plate Meals, and I'm probably missing some folks, came together and were like, let's pilot this. So in 2021, in the spring, 3 local schools piloted it for about a month to see what it looked like. So Fargo South, Moorhead High, and Liberty were the 3 schools that piloted it because they had a pantry on site. So it was easy of make the meals, get them to the pantry. Over that month, I believe there was around 500 units of food that were distributed. With Meal Repack, everything you'll hear from Amber, it looks different. It might not be a full, complete meal, but it might be chicken strips or odds and ends of what was left after lunch. So 500 components of a meal were distributed. 100% worried less about having enough food when they received those meals. 100% of the food was consumed, and 84% enjoyed the food that was received. There was a decrease in food waste from the school food nutrition staff, and they were using existing community resources. So that was back in 2021. We obviously know the period of COVID. There's a lot of turnover. Schools also were adapting to kids coming back to school, being in school. What does that look like? And so there was kind of a decrease in Meal Repack. However, last spring, it became one of the main committees of the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition that this was a priority. So we have really been spearheading outreach, trying to get more schools re-engaged or engaged in the program, and kind of creating that buy-in, because there needs to be buy-in within the school administration, social workers, and the food service staff as well. So currently we have Moorhead High School, the Career Academy, Northern Cass, Carl Bend Middle School, Cheyenne High School, Barnesville Public Elementary School, currently participating in the Meal Repack program. This is awesome. We're using product, but we also have heard that some schools don't have enough food to distribute at the end of their lunch, which is great. There's less food waste, but we still know that kids need that food after school on the weekends. So we are currently trying to expand the Meal Repack scope of how do we work with caterers and event centers and even large organizations that host events. How can we use their extra product and get it to the schools? We also know churches host weekly events or weddings, even funerals that have extras. So how can we engage with them so that they know about us and know us as a resource to get the food to a place where it can be consumed? The Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Coalition, so that's the statewide coalition, they're also taking it as an initiative. So that is one of their core approaches, is expanding Meal Repack across the state. So using what we've done in Cass and Clay County through our implementation guide that we've created, how can that be statewide and get it into the rural communities where transportation is still an issue and families are having to make those tough choices? So we're really excited to see how we can partner with the state's coalition and make it everywhere in North Dakota. I'll pass off to Amber.
Sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about how this works actually in a school building and those pieces that a school and their partners need to make this successful in their schools. And I'll start by saying the food that we're meal repacking is leftover unserved food from our lunch lines, packaged in a container that looks like this. It's a really simple, low-lift, inexpensive project that is going a long way to reduce food waste and to feed those kids, get that extra nutrition out in our schools. So in terms of support, I think the first place that every school needs to start, and where we sometimes run into challenges, is getting that support and those champions. And so really the key players in this are having a coordinator at the school. And if you already have a school pantry, which is where we started, you have a person in that building already who knows that and who has access to, the individuals that might need this. But it could be anybody in the community or in the school that's excited about that. Nutrition staff is really, really important. These are the people that are doing most of the work here. So having them on board is really, really important because it is taking a little bit of time from them. For instance, at Northern Cass, they pack maybe once to twice a week, and it's about 40 minutes to an hour depending on how much leftover there was. But in terms of our school, we don't look at it as this is extra work for somebody. We're looking at it as we're not throwing this in the garbage now. We can actually feed kids, and they see those kids every day, so they know that it's going to those kids that they're talking to on the lunch line every day. And then having your administration leadership in the school. Obviously, to sustain anything, you've got to have that leadership buy-in for that. So the original group with the pilot program created an implementation guide, and they worked with public health to make sure that this process is food safe, and we're doing things in accordance with rules and regulations and guidelines. And so it's really about what kind of packaging do you need? How do you get a hold of these? What's your storage capacity? How are you going to do this? How's that distribution going to work? And each school does their distribution very differently. So a school might work through, I know some of the larger schools in the metro area, they work through social service or their service worker or a pantry coordinator. Our school, we just opened it up. Northern Cass is really big with, we don't want to have any barriers to access for anybody. So it's available to anyone. You don't have to go to an individual. We've put it in a location anybody can access. We don't get to track as much data that way. We only know how many go out. But as far as I'm concerned, if those meals are going out, they're getting to somebody who needs it. And then really talking about how do you want to set this up in your school and when you want to get started with this to make sure it's working. So really all you need to make this happen, and when we talk to schools, we really stress you need trays, which in terms of cost, the food bank has funding for that, and so those are free right now. When we started, we were not a pilot partner. We came in, and at the time there wasn't funding for that, so we just built it into our budget. Our dining services said we want to do this. We want this to be sustainable, so it's in our budget. And so when the free trays came in, I didn't even talk about it because as far as I'm concerned, if it's a line item in the budget, it's sustainable for us. And then the cost of labels. And so really the labels are the big piece to making sure we're working with our food safety. Keep frozen, reheat to a certain temperature, have those allergens on that, and then just our tracking system in the school. And it looks different for every school depending on how you're doing your distribution. It's incredibly simple for schools to implement. And then here we just have some pictures. So that is that Moorhead, I believe, packing. And some of the different meals. Every school packs a little bit differently. Our dining services has decided that they don't want to repack anything that has been reheated multiple times. So like chicken nuggets, pizza, like that. Some schools do that. Honestly, we don't usually have leftovers of chicken nuggets and pizza on those days, but more of our homemade items are repacked at the school. And then the freezer that you see is actually our freezer at Northern Cass. So we set aside some funds from our dining services budget. We bought a nice clear freezer. This sits out in the hallway across from the kitchen, easy to access. We have bags donated from a local bank, so we've got some privacy there. And we, you can't see it on the picture, but there's actually an email and a number to call, which comes to me if somebody doesn't want to grab it from the hall, and instead they want somebody to pack it for them and put it away so they can discreetly put it in their bags, because we don't have lockers at Northern Cass to deliver to. So we've got a system set up for that as well. And really, that's it. I mean, we're just really excited to talk about this, and we're talking to any school district and any business that's willing to chat with us about this, because it's an amazing, simple program. Our school has given out in the last 2 years, over 1,500 meals. And Northern Cass is not a high free and reduced lunch district. It really opened the eyes in our district around the fact that there is food insecurity there. And there's a lot of poverty above the poverty line in our area. And it's also helped our administration and our dining services staff to get really creative about other food going on in the school district. Now, at the end of the day, if we've got leftover unserved items from our salad bar, fruit, pieces like that, they package it up and it's distributed as kids walk out to the bus. 90% of our kids are bused, and they're running out with clamshells of salad and pieces of fruit, and anyone can take that, and it's been really wonderful. We've also started doing a pilot project at Northern Cass with Community of Care nonprofit in our area to do this for our seniors, because we were finding out that some of our staff was bringing the meals home and distributing it to seniors in their area that they knew were food insecure. So now our family and consumer science class makes the meals, freezes them, and then Community of Care has volunteers delivering those to seniors in our area. So it's really been a great way to spur innovation all across the board for us.
That is such a great program. I don't know if I have the number right, but isn't it like 30 to 35% of the food produced in this country is wasted? This is a great redistribution of that, so congratulations. Questions, comments? Yeah, Heather.
I was just going to make a comment. I am very pleased to say I was there at that first Friday where school lunch professionals were giving a presentation about their lunch programs and their nutrition. And somebody was asked about their waste. And I happened to be there with a colleague of mine. And at the time, we did school lunch fundraising for the Moorhead community. And there were some other fantastic catalysts in the room who came up with the idea to start the program. And I'm very thankful of this program and to see that it's expanded. I love the ideas of incorporating students in that social change, the family consumer science class, and involving elders, and really incorporating a variety of opportunities, looking at caterers and social events in our own communities and seeing how that can expand. The possibilities are limitless. I was a small blip in the possibility of expanding and keeping Moorhead running after they were a pilot program. And I'm glad to see that they are still on the list. And I would love to see more and more schools added. And so thank you very much for bringing this presentation. I'm hopeful of our Cass and Clay Food Commission, if we can bring it to our own communities and inspire more expansion. Thank you.
Yeah, Jean.
I would encourage the conversation to continue with colleges and universities, because where there's a number of students, that's another group that's kind of an invisible sometimes that deal with hunger issues. So I know from at Concordia, there's been some conversation about the meal repack. In fact, I think we've talked with you before, but I would encourage that because, again, there's a lot of food wasted there and a lot of hungry students. So again, great job. Thank you for your presentation and for your work and your energy. This is terrific.
Thank you. And that's a good reminder too. Our call to action today is really if you can spread the word about this and talk with your networks. We're always looking for partners.
Will those slides be available to us to pass on or to review?
Yes.
Yeah. We can get that to you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, ladies, for your presentation, and congratulations, Ms. Lockhart, on the success at Northern Cass. If a person has a school in mind that's not on the list,
Yes.
what's the starting point? What's the best route to go?
Well, I guess I didn't even get to that point. If you have a school in mind, which we have been trying to get into DGF.
I thought they were.
So you can connect with myself or Jill, and we are planning to do quarterly lunch and learns virtually to keep engaging with schools and nutrition staff. But we can have one-on-one conversations as well with if there's a school that's interested and just wants to dip their toes in it. So
Thank you.
And if nutrition staff wants to connect with us at Northern Cass and talk nutrition staff to nutrition staff to talk about, you know, the nitty gritty details. Northern Cass is always happy to do that.
At Northern Cass, was it a really fast buy-in to this idea?
It was. I started in October of that year, and our new dining services director started in November. We met right before the December break, and I brought the implementation guide, and I said, you know, think about it. We'll talk a little bit more about it. I came back a week later to see what she thought. She's like, already I bought the trays. We're doing
Oh, cool.
it. So it was an easy buy-in.
Good, thank you.
And I will just say the implementation guide, I have some on hand if you're interested in taking one. It really is about like taking it and running with it. So they don't need to be trained really on much. They can take that implementation guide and just kind of go. So it's really low barrier for the schools on that aspect of it.
I'll talk to you later.
Yes.
Great.
I'll see you later.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Michelle, I think you're going to do an update on the steering committee, and we had actually a really robust kind of conversation at the last steering committee meeting. It was great, so.
All right, good morning. Dave, as a DGF alum, I am happy to connect you with that meal repack program. See what we can do there.
Perfect.
Yes. All right, well, I'm here to give some steering committee updates. As some of you may know, for our January and February meetings as a steering committee, we do meet monthly. We did host it at the Sky Commons conference room just in the nearby building, and really opened it up to all commissioners as well as at-large members to join us to kind of see what our process looks like, to engage in conversation, and to just really kind of form more partnerships. And so I really thank all of you who were able to join us in those couple months, and I hope that it was helpful and informative. Later this month, we will be back at Fargo Cass Public Health. But of course, if you are interested in joining those meetings, you are definitely welcome. Just feel free to reach out to myself or Adam if you are interested in joining. And part of those meetings, we did talk about the strategic planning process, specifically as it relates to the food partners. As you know, the Action Network arm of the food partners is shifting and it's changing, and in being mindful in terms of what that looks like moving forward, the steering committee did decide to move forward with a consultant to do strategic planning. So we are hopeful that a contract will be in place by April and that we can move forward with that process to really look at what the mission, vision, and values are of the Cass Clay Food Partners to really move this work forward and be mindful, again, of what that action network looks like, but even bigger picture as the food partners, what initiatives are we going to be working on, and really what are the goals that we want to accomplish together moving forward. So please be on the lookout for an email invitation to participate in a survey about food systems and how that looks in our community. And then you all will be invited to also join in a committee work group to really identify the next steps in the vision, mission, and values of the Cass Clay Food Partners. And not really specific to steering committee, but I did want to wish everybody a happy National Nutrition Month. So National Nutrition Month is an annual campaign which is created by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So during the month of March, everyone's invited to learn about making informed food choices and developing healthful eating habits and physical activity habits as well. So this year's theme, which I thought was really fitting, is Beyond the Table. So it addresses the farm to fork aspect of nutrition. So as you know, the food system is definitely involved with that. So food production, distribution, but even how do we, work around in grocery stores and even access farmers markets, but even food safety and storage practices. It also describes the various ways we eat. So at the dinner table, if we're on the go, but even in schools, as we're learning a lot about today, in restaurants, and as a busy mom myself, we are eating a lot at games and events. And so really, how does that all wrap into our overall food intake. So the theme includes sustainability, so decreasing food waste, again, very fitting given the meal repack information that was just shared. So highly encourage you to check out, it's called eatright.org is the website that has more information on that. So in addition to Nutrition Month, today specifically is Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day. So I feel like we have to give a little bit of a plug because we do have dietitians who are part of the Food Partners. So I want to give a special shout out to those individuals. So Anna Johnson, who is an at-large member, is a registered dietitian, as well as Deb Haugen, who is a steering committee member and unfortunately can't be here today. And me, myself, I am also a registered dietitian. So thank a dietitian if you can today.
Yeah.
Is that selfish? Sorry. I just feel like it's really an important thing. So registered dietitian nutritionists, if you are not aware, are the food and nutrition experts. So we've met requirements from the Commission on Dietetic Registration. We've sat through an exam. We've put in over 1,000 hours of experience and shadowing and implementation. And dietitians really can work in a wide variety of settings. So from healthcare to community or public health, education, research, government, private practice, you name it. We tend to dabble in a lot of different areas. So happy
And-
Registered Dietitian Day.
If I can add to that, Michelle.
Yeah.
As a nurse, understanding that lifestyle is so important to health conditions, and a large part of a lifestyle is the food, the nutrition a person takes in. So thank you to those of you that help support that.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. So that is all of the steering committee updates that I have. I'm happy to move.
Then
to
why
the
don't you
next
just
item.
go right on into the community recognition?
Wonderful, happy to. Okay, so since May of 2022, the Food Commission has highlighted individuals and organizations for their work in our area. And so I'm excited that we have 2 areas of recognition this morning. So this month here in March at the steering committee, or at the Food Commission meeting rather, the first recognition I'd like to give is to Keith Lehman, who recently completed his 4th year of raising funds for the Fargo North Open Door. So a little history about that. Fargo North's Open Door is a hybrid food pantry and clothing room for students in need. Students have access to necessities such as food, toiletry items, shoes, clothing, and a helping hand. So Keith is a Fargo math teacher and department chair. He is also the head coach for girls track and field, as well as the assistant coach for boys cross country. So Keith passionately runs 1 mile for every $100 that he raises each fall and winter, specifically for Fargo North's Open Door. So historically, or since he has been doing this since 2020, he has ran over 99 miles, which means that he has raised almost $10,000 for Fargo North Open Door. And it's my understanding that 1 year he raised close to $3,800, which would equate to almost 38 miles that he ran. So the principal of Fargo North could not be here this morning, but he did provide this quote. He said, Keith continues to go above and beyond with selfless acts that show his commitment to something bigger than himself. The Fargo North Open Door provides many resources for so many students and their families, and because of Keith, we are able to continue meeting the needs of those families. While his personality is to deflect any recognition, the work he has done is truly remarkable. So with that, Keith is with us this morning, so we're very thankful that he is able to do that. Keith, if you're interested in sharing some words, you're more than welcome. Come on up. Thank you for everything.
Yeah. Thank you. I am surprised by this. I'm gracious that you guys are taking the time to recognize Open Door. I started teaching math 7 years ago, and I believe Open Door was started maybe a year or 2 prior to that. But in that time, I've seen the need of our students increase significantly. I think in every aspect of every day. COVID was kind of the trigger point. That's where we kind of got an inside look at what's happening at home a little bit more, and just how much our students are relying on resources provided by the school. So maybe just a point of clarification on this. I started it in doing this in 2020. leading up to that Thanksgiving and Christmas time, of course, those are the times when kids are away from school the most, and often where there's a little bit of anxiety leading up to that time away from school. So my dad was nice enough to get me one of these fancy watches that tell you how far you run, and I've always been, ever since 6th grade, been a runner. So I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt. I could put something on Facebook and maybe make something of this. So I think it started with about a 2-week period, and I just said, hey, here's my Venmo. If you want to do it directly to the school, that's great. And for every $100, I will, on this Saturday in, I think it was October at that time, I will run a mile. I got maybe a little bit more of a turnout than I anticipated that first year. But I truly am a man of my word. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So I did end up running 38.25 miles on, I should know the date, but it's like right after Halloween time. So that it was a wonderful turnout. So just leading up year after year, I've done a little bit more reducing the window of donations, but I also think that there's a residual recognition of the need there. So even though, yes, my window is open for a week, people hear about it, they maybe see me out. So I think it brings a good amount of awareness to the program overall. So running is kind of just the medium for recognition of this program. And I am so gracious hearing from former students who even do reach out. They're donating $5 because, hey, that was a program that helped me. If I can even give $5, run your 500th of a mile in the meantime, it really does mean a lot. So thank you. I mean, a lot of this, I had honestly no idea a lot of what I saw today, but the work that you guys are doing, like everything you said today related to our students, I see a lot of it, but to see the numbers, I was loving I teach statistics too, so hearing how you gather your data was really cool. Any students watching, that is a stratified random sample that they were referring to, with some systematic processes in there too. But no, thank you. I don't want to eat up too much of your time, but thank you for this opportunity to be here. I don't know, donate next year, look on Facebook and make me run a few more miles maybe. Okay, thank you.
It sounds like a side benefit would be training for the marathon, perhaps.
And maybe if the food partners need some help with some statistics, we know who to reach out to. So thank you very much. The next recognition this morning is in regards to the James Beard Awards. So the James Beard Foundation Restaurant Chef Awards recognize exceptional talent and achievement in the culinary arts, hospitality, media, and the broader food system, as well as demonstrated commitment to racial and gender equity, community, sustainability, and a culture where all can thrive. I know that we all feel that we're very fortunate with the kind of all of the different access to food and things like that many of us have the privilege to have. And we have 3 semifinalists that have been recognized in our community. So would like to highlight those today. So across 22 different categories, as I mentioned, there were 3 semifinalists. So the first is an outstanding restaurateur. So Nikki Ness Berglund and Ryan Nitschke were nominated for Luna Fargo, Soul Ave Kitchen, and Nova Eatery. For Outstanding Bakery is Nicole's Fine Pastry and Cafe. And Best Chef in the Midwest, Andrea Baumgardner from Burn Bombs. So the nominees will be announced on April 3rd, and on June 10th in Chicago, the winners will be announced in an awards ceremony. I ate at Burn Bombs last week and had their vegan Reuben, and I highly recommend it. And we do have Chef Andrea with us. If you would like to say something, you're more than welcome. Okay, so yes, congratulations.
Is this the one? Either or. Okay. Well, thank you. That's very kind. I care a lot about food systems and I care about access to food. I think you can't be involved in a restaurant or a bakery or without that love and without that care, because otherwise it can be a pretty can be brutal. It can be a brutal, sort of tedious business. But we're very grateful that James Beard has looked at us. And of course, when one person gets named with James Beard, one thing I feel that people don't always know about restaurants is that it more than other things I've been a part of, it hinges on all of the people that are part of it. And so it's really about all of Birnbaum's, not just me. And if our delivery driver doesn't show up for a day, it seriously affects my life, and it seriously affects how we can do things, or if our food deliveries don't go as well, or if something, breaks down. And so I'm really grateful that we have an incredibly diverse and talented bunch of people that are willing to work with us at Birnbaum's. And so thank you so much. Thank you for your work.
And I have to say, we've been to Birnbaum's a lot. We live across the street from it, so it's really convenient. All right, public comment is the next agenda item. Are there any individuals online or anyone in the audience? Doesn't look like it. So any final comments from the steering committee or from the commission that you would like to add in to the agenda here? Nope. Not seeing anybody. So future meetings, next coffee with the commission is still to be determined. The date hasn't been set or the place. And then our next commission meeting will be May 8th. So if we don't see you before, we'll see you then. And a motion to adjourn would be good.
So move.
Second.
For a while there, I didn't think you wanted to leave. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you again for coming.